Hey everybody, we're going to look at solving linear equations. This is actually going to be day 3 of solving linear equations. And so our learning outcomes today are going to be solving linear equations with solutions of all real numbers. And we might even have a situation where there's no solution. And so we're going to have 2 different situations where we're not going to get just one solution like we have in the past. We're going to have a situation where the answer is going to be all real numbers, and a different situation where there will not be any solution whatsoever. And then the second part is going to be solving linear equations with proportions. And these are just ratios. And so those are our learning outcomes for the day. So the whole time we've been doing the linear equations, we've always got just one solution. And so I want to talk about what that looks like real quick. And so here I draw the line underneath the equal sign. There's nothing to distribute. There's no combining of like terms. My variable is already on the left-hand side, so I'm going to move the constant to the right-hand side by doing the opposite operation. And so that gives me 0. So I get 3x is equal to 15. And then I can divide each side by 3. And I get that x is equal to 5. And so that is my one solution. And we've been doing those the entire time. All the equations that we've been doing so far all had at least, or have one solution. And so now we're going to look at what an equation looks like when there's no solution. So we're still going to do the exact same thing. Nothing has changed with our process. We're going to distribute, combine like terms. Here I've got variables on both sides, so I'm going to move the variable on the right. I'm going to move it with the opposite operation over to the left. But I want you to notice what happens here. If you notice, this zeroes out and this zeroes out. And this zeroes out. And so I'm left with -8 and 2. And so what that is saying that x is -8 is equal to +2. And I know that that's not true. So anytime we have a false statement, when we know that something is not true, our answer will be no solution. There are not any numbers on our real number line that will satisfy that equation. There are not any numbers that will satisfy that equation, so therefore there is no solution. Now we're going to look at what it looks like to have an infinite number of solutions. And so our process still remains the same. I'm going to draw the line underneath the equal sign. I have variables on the left and variables on the right, so I'm going to use the opposite operation to move the variable on the right to the left. And if you notice again, what happens here is this zeroes out and this zeroes out. And so I'm left with -1 is equal to -1. Well, that's a true statement. That's the truth. So anytime we have a true statement, my answer will be all real numbers. And there's a little shortcut that you can do for that. You can write this symbol. It's just a double R is all it really is. And that's an infinite number of solutions. So either one of those. You could even write infinite number of solutions. So let's try this one. Here I'm going to draw the line underneath the equal sign. I'm going to distribute. I get -8x. Negative times a positive is -4. and I have negative 8x minus 2. I see that I have variables on both sides of the equation, so I'm going to move the variable from the right-hand side to the left-hand side using opposite operations. So I'm adding 8x to both sides. And again, I recognize that this cancels out and gives me 0. This cancels out and gives me 0. So I'm left with negative 4 is equal to negative 2, which is a false statement. So my answer is no solution. Why don't you go ahead and pause the video and then come back and check your answer. Okay, so you can see here that I distributed the 3 to both, to the 1 and to the negative 3x. Now I'm going to combine like terms on the right hand side, and I see that 3 minus 8 is negative 9x minus 5. So I've got variables on both sides, so I'm going to add 9x using the opposite operation to move it to the other side of the equation. I notice that this cancels out and gives me 0. That cancels out and gives me 0. So I have negative 5 is equal to negative 5. So my solution is all real numbers. So let's see here. I've got 6x plus 6 minus 3x is equal to 6 plus 3x. So I distributed. Now I'm going to combine like terms. I get 3x plus 6 is equal to 6 plus 3x. So some of you might recognize that this right here is going to be all real numbers because it's the exact same thing. Those two things are in fact equal. It is an infinite number of solutions. If you don't see it, that's okay. We're going to subtract 3x from both sides. I recognize that that equals 0 and that equals 0. And I'm left with 6 is equal to 6, which is a true statement. So my answer is all real numbers. You can pause the video and try this one. Come back and check your answer. Okay, so hopefully you got x is equal to negative 4 for this one. Just because we've introduced the all real numbers as a solution and the infinite number of solutions and the no solutions, we can still have equations that have one solution. So they're just all kind of mixed in between here. I'm going to skip those couple and I'm going to get to the proportions. And so when we have proportions, you have a fraction that equals a fraction. When you have a fraction equaling a fraction, you can actually cross multiply. And so what that means is you're going to go across the equal sign. And so you're going to have 6 times 4, and that's going to equal 3 times x, I'm sorry. And so we get 24 is equal to 3x. When I divide each side by 3, I get 8 is equal to x, or x is equal to 8. The key thing to remember here is when you're doing your cross multiplication, you have 3x equals, and then you do the other side. And it doesn't matter which way you go. You can do the 3 times x first and then do the 6 times 4. It doesn't matter. So let's see. I've got a fraction equaling a fraction. And so I'm going to multiply y minus 3 times 5. Remember, you're going to have to distribute that. And then we're going to have 2 times y. So distributing the 5, I get 5y minus 15 is equal to 2y. I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. I get 3y minus 15 is equal to 0 because that cancels out. I'm going to add 15 to both sides. I get 3y is equal to 15. Divide each side by 3, and I get y is equal to 5. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try this one and come back and check your work. Okay, so hopefully you got k is equal to 6. You can see here that I had to distribute the 5 and you had to distribute the 3. Move the variable to the left, move the constant to the right, and then I divided by the 7 in front. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for your time.